Welcome to the Livecosts Construction Experience Podcast. I'm Kieran Brennan, co-founder of Livecosts.com. Finally, the construction sector has entered its digital transformation, meaning the way we operate our projects and businesses day to day is being disrupted. This podcast is designed to help you in all areas of your business. We do this by bringing in experts across all key areas of a construction business who share their stories, their challenges, wins and losses so others can learn from their experiences. To watch previous episodes, please visit livecosts.com or search livecosts.com across all popular social platforms. I hope you enjoy the show. All right, hello and welcome to another episode of the Livecosts Construction Experience. Today I'm delighted to be zooming down to the Gold Coast, Australia to chat to Brett Campbell. Brett's a serial entrepreneur, having founded two of Australia's fastest growing companies in their respective fields, including the fastest growing fitness franchise at its time, exploding to 35 locations within 6 months. That's not bad. Also responsible for the fastest growing digital growth agency, having won the accolade in 2018 for the Best Social Media Agency of the Year award for Australia and New Zealand within their first 12 months of operation, and also in 2019 Marketing Excellence Award. Brett's the go-to business expert when it comes to fast and effective business growth, having invested over $2 million personally into his own paid advertising, and now running a lot of millions of dollars, should I say, for advertising for his clients in over 30 industries. Brett is a published author, global speaker, television personality, and Australia's number one mainstream business channel. That's not bad for a young fella, Brett. Welcome to the Livecosts Construction Experience. How are you?
Mate, thank you for having me. It's all made up. I just wanted to, I was told at an early age, marketing, you just got to, if you don't have a good story to tell, make one up, and then hopefully enough people believe it.
Yeah, you've done a bit in your short time here, I suppose. But I mean, just to bring it back to give listeners a bit of context to how we sort of crossed paths. I had my own construction company, started to realize that branding and marketing actually mattered in business, no matter what business you're in. And I went and engaged myself with the entourage, who you'll know well, and Jack and Morello and Peter Lakovich would be responsible for a lot of the good stuff that happened to that old business that went on to be acquired. And we crossed paths because generally when I go to business talk, I generally don't relate to the speakers in a much way. Now, I don't know whether that's a background thing. It's never much of a related thing. But I do remember your story of, you left school at 16, started in the trades, moved through the trades, went into business, left New Zealand for Australia, which I also left Ireland. And there was something about it, a raw energy about it that I sort of connected with. And there was a lot of strategies you shared that day about building online funnels that I actually adopted into the business at the time, which I went on, which I actually still use today, if I'm being honest. So first of all, thanks for that. Give people a little bit of a background. You're currently the co-founder and chief evangelist at Claxon. What is Claxon, and what's your day-to-day role within that business?
Let me start by asking for my affiliate checks for all the money you've made from the strategies you've implemented. First and foremost, I'm still waiting on those. No, but mate, love hearing stories like that. As a self-confessed teacher, and what I mean by that is someone who, whenever I learn something, I want to teach it, right? Regardless of whatever it is. If I solve a Rubik's Cube, I want to go and show people how to do it. I just love teaching, right? So first and foremost, accolades to you for actually taking something that, was taught and implementing it. Because that's the biggest problem we have these days. There's no shortage of information. There's so much information right now, but there's a massive lack of people who are taking action on that. But mate, back to your original question, I got kicked out of high school 2000. Oh, well, actually, I don't even know the date now. I was 16 years old anyway, a little while ago. And I became a cabinet maker. So I was an apprentice cabinet maker. So, grew up in that whole apprenticeship model, the trade model. I hung around tradies. They were all my mates, but I always felt different. I always thought different. My first day, I walked into the factory and my boss is standing there and he says, he goes, well, here you are, next 4 years. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, oh, fuck. What have I signed myself up to, But my thought, first and foremost, was, okay, how do I own this factory? So that's where I was like, how do I be the boss? How do I become the boss of this? And I asked him, I said, hey, who's the best person in this factory? Because I thought to be the boss, you got to be the best Yeah, that was my thinking back then. But surprise, you actually don't need to be the best to be the boss. You just need to have the biggest balls to go and put your money on the line to be a boss, right? Now I know that in hindsight. But back then I thought to be the boss, you got to be the best. So I was like, who's the best? He goes, Baz is the best. Baz was a guy who, to this day, he's still there. I think he's been there for like 30 years. Baz was the best, literally, hands down. But long story short, I said to the boss, I said, I'm going to go and learn from Baz. He goes, no, you're not going to learn from Baz. Baz hates apprentices. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay. Well, who am I going to learn from? And I went and learned, the second best was George. And I said, okay, I'll go and learn from George. But what I did every single day was I went up to Baz and said, Baz, you got any jobs? You got any jobs? You got any jobs? He's like, fuck off, get out of here. If you ask me one more time, I'm going to hit you over there with a hammer. And but I was persistent, right? I was relentless. I kept going back. Till one day, Baz actually said to me, he goes, oi, Brett. And when you're an apprentice, you're a broom technician, right? You're just picking up after all the tradesmen. You're fucking taking all the scraps out into the bin and sweeping the floors. And he yelled out to me one day, he goes, here you go, here's some drawers. So as a joiner, as a cabinet maker, the first thing, so we were building kitchens essentially was the part of the factory that I started in. And we were building, the first thing apprentices would do would just build drawers. And so a square box basically, put some drawer runners on it. And he goes, there you go, don't go fuck it up or else this is the last time you're ever going to do anything from me. And he gave me the set of drawer, or the piece of timber on a trolley. I wheeled the trolley over, set up my bench. I was only 3 months into this, right? And apprentices never got on the tools till about 6, 7, 8 months before they could build stuff, because they'd always just be the lackey of the factory. They'd be walking around trying to find left-hand screwdrivers that people told them to go and find, right? That sort of shit.
Yeah.
And I set up and I'm away building the drawers. The boss comes out and he goes to me, he goes, what the fuck are you doing on the tools? What are you doing? I said, Baz gave me the drawers to make. And he was like, what? Baz doesn't do that. And he went over, talked to Baz, and yep, sure enough, Baz actually gave me the drawers to do. And so I finished the drawers. I took them over to Baz, and he picked up the drawers. He's checking, is it square? Is the drawer bottom overhanging? Do I need to plane it off? Is the drawer runner on straight? Have I screwed through the side of a drawer? All the stuff you'd check. He's there looking around. He goes, oh, this is actually pretty good. He goes, this is not bad. He goes, how'd you learn how to do this? And I said, you want to know how I learned? And he goes, yeah, of course I fucking do. That's why I asked you. I'm like, well, fair point. Just checking. And I said to him, I said, well, in between sweeping the floors and taking out all the rubbish, what I'd do is I'd sneak one of the tradesmen's battery drills and I'd go and sit in the garbage bin and I'd be practicing drilling straight, screwing straight, making boxes square. I was practicing on scrap timber, right? Because I knew that I'd get an opportunity to do this one day. And I wanted to make sure when I got my opportunity, I wasn't here to fuck around. I wanted to be the best. So I had to start acting like the best, even when I was the worst. Right. So, and I share that for you. It's probably a little bit longer answer to your initial question, but I share that because that's the foundation of how I do everything. Right. That's how I do life. Right. Which leads into now your question of what's Klaxon. Right. So why Klaxon and what do we do? My inception at that moment was that's when I realized I was an entrepreneur. Right. I wasn't going to be an employee of a business. Right. I could be a good employee, but the problem is I'd only last so long until I wanted to be the owner of the business. That's just how I'm bred, right? That's just how I'm wired. Some people are. There'll be people listening going, yeah, that's me. Fuck that. I don't want to. And it's not because I don't like taking orders from someone. Just a lot of the time I think their orders are fucking worse than orders that I'd give, right? and it's just inbuilt into me. And I had the option.
Let me stop you there because there's something really interesting you're touching on. It's something myself and my brother is also part of this business, and I've come through the trades, builder, the whole shit. And we laugh all the time at when we hear a lot in this game, which is technology. Oh, what a tough day, And there's something that's been bred in us because we, same yourselves, start pushing wheelbarrows, filling skips at 15, 16, and that's tough, right? So when we have a bad day here, and that's a good thing that we've taken from that is say, it's not that bad, lads. It's not that bad. We could be filling skips. We could be out in the rain. We could be doing a lot worse than what we're doing. What takings have you taken from your time in the trade you sort of can still think about today and still use today to your advantage?
Mate, the one thing I love about being a cabinet maker, right, was it taught me to have attention to detail, right? So on one side of my brain, I'm the most creative person, right? Like out there, I've got 1,000,005,000 ideas. But on the other side of the brain, I've taught myself to be more methodical, more intentional. Cabinet makers work within the millimeter, right? So to this day, I can walk into anyone's house and I can see if their door is 3 mils at the top or 2 mils at the bottom. Like most people will be like, what are you even looking at? But I can see it. So I taught myself. So I learned some, and those were things that don't come naturally to me, right? So it taught me the ability to be able to be fine, right? Looking at things in a lot more detail, but also attaching that to my crazy visionary mind, my ADHD overdrive brain to be able to come along the ride with me. Right? That was a huge thing. The other big lesson that I think I took from being an apprentice, and I only can draw from that now, was that some things do take time. However, just because something is done in a specific way, it doesn't mean it has to be done that way, right? And let me explain that, because I think that this is another big thing, and I think a huge opportunity if more people started adopting this philosophy in life. So I was making draws in month 3. No other apprentice would generally pick up their tools till 6, 7, 8 months, right? Now, it doesn't mean I was better. I was prepared. I was ready, right? So I created the opportunity for myself. Most people would have stopped asking Baz after day 5. I literally asked him every fucking day until he ended up saying yes, right? Now, what happened was by 12 months, I was building kitchens. So I would literally, and this was back in the day before CNC routers, right? This is where I was given a picture, an A4 piece of paper from my boss with a block drawing and going, the pantry's in the corner. Here's where the dishwasher is. Here's the revolving drawers and da-da-da-da-da. We're going to do this. Now you go and draw it up, mark it out on the floor with a pen, right? Create your own cutting list. Go and cut it. Go and plane each side of the cabinetry, then go and stick on the sticker tape and plane that down. So it was very, very manual, right? But my point there was I was building kitchens at 12 months, right? Apprentices weren't building kitchens till like 2 years, even a little bit longer in the life cycle. So I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, I'm building kitchens faster than everyone in the factory other than Baz, at a higher level than everyone in the factory other than Baz, because he legitimately was the best. And I'm getting paid probably the least in this entire factory. I was like, this just fucking doesn't make sense. You know, and I'd try and reconcile this, and I'd be talking to my parents and they're like, oh, but that's what apprenticeships are and this is how it's supposed to be. And I'm like, but it just doesn't feel right. I can't reconcile that that's fair. I understand there's apprenticeships. I understand it. But if I'm doing a job faster and more efficient and a better outcome than another person, they're getting paid like back then, I think I was on like $7 an hour building kitchens, right? A tradesman getting double plus than me, it just didn't make sense. So
yeah,
long story short,
I fully agree with you, because there's something within the industry that we you know, especially when you get on to bigger scale jobs, we've got to have unions. We've got to have unions. And I came from small business world whereby you got rewarded based on your ability and based on your hard work ethic. And when you get onto these big sites, and I remember we were in Perth, Australia, we picked up a position on a big site, and I was told everybody's on the same rate of pay because that's what the union said. Wow, bullshit that is. Like we're all equal. Yeah. Yep. So there was obviously something in you then, Brett, that's something that said that cabinet making wouldn't be for you. Did you figure that out early, or was it a case of you had to finish what you set out to do? And at what point then did you decide that it was time to move?
Here's the thing, right? So the apprenticeship was 4 years. I went into the boss's office about 2.5 years. I said, you got to pay me what a tradesman's being paid or I'm out of here. And they said, get the fuck back in the factory. You're not getting paid anymore. I said, okay, I'll prove it to you guys. And I just went back into the office, says, I'm not coming back in on Monday. I'm leaving. I'm quitting. And then I went back out of the office, and they came back about 2 hours later saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. We gave you a pay rise, equal pay to one of the trade, or to the tradesman level. And they signed me off on my apprenticeship at year 3. I didn't have to do 4 years. I did 3 years, right? And then they gave me an opportunity to head up a new department within inside the business, right? So what that did was that was a big enough carrot to keep me there, okay? Now, my point that I want to make with that is that just because something is the way it is right now doesn't mean it's the way it should be or does need to be moving forward, right? So you can always create your own path, right? So for me, though, your question there was, did I know that it wasn't for me? Mate, I knew from day one it wasn't for me. I knew when I got kicked out of high school that, I knew doing a trade was not going to be the thing for me. I was good at it. I liked it. I was good at woodwork at school. So I was good at 3 things, right? Woodwork, physical education, so PE, and lunch. I wasn't going to get paid to eat. I'd already tried the woodwork. So what I did was I was like, fuck it. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to university. I'm going to study to be a fitness trainer and maybe go and train one of the sports teams, right? I went to uni for a year, realized it was the biggest fucking waste of time. The best thing I got from it, though, was I was sort of, let's call it an adult student. I was 24 going in, and everyone's 18. I was like, whew, I had a bit of money. It was a good year, but I did, it was basically a gap year for me, right? But I realized at that point, I was like, I got 3 more years of my university degree. There's no way I'm going to do what I did with my apprenticeship, which was stay there for 4 years too long, basically 5 years too long. So I just packed up my suitcase and my golf clubs, and I moved from New Zealand, which is where I grew up, moved from New Zealand to Surfers Paradise in the Gold Coast. I said, here you go, Brett, start your new life, mate. I was bouncing at a nightclub, and then I became a fitness professional. So I was a PT, which is really good to get to know people over here. Built a fitness company, uncovered what marketing was, realized that marketing is the lifeblood for any successful business or company.
Let me stop you there, because that's really important, because you've major name on how good of a marketer you are. And you sort of talk about it there as if you just fell into it. Was that the case, or did you realize, now I've got to study this, this is going to be a critical part of my fitness world, I've got to go and learn this? Or did you actually stumble into it and it just became learning by doing?
Mate, marketing to me, before I knew what it was just a word. I was like, yeah, marketing and advertising. That's what Coca-Cola did, and that's what McDonald's did. They marketed and advertised. I had no idea what it even was. How I stumbled into it was literally, I was training clients. So at the time, I was just a personal trainer, trading time for money. So I had to still turn up to personally train people. In saying that, I was earning like 3 times more than I was as a cabinet maker. So I thought that was pretty cool right now. Young single bloke living on the Gold Coast. I was like, I got cash to burn. But it still wasn't enough for me. I was like, this isn't who I'm supposed to be or what I'm put on this planet for. And one day I was walking out to go train my clients, and I walked past my roommate's computer, and she had a PDF document open. I was like, what's that? And she goes, I just bought it. It's a workout program. I was like, holy shit. I said, where'd you buy that? Because the person's from Canada. I'm like, oh, you can. This was the moment of you can make money while you sleep. I was like, holy shit. So I was like, okay, I've got to figure out how to do this. And that's where I stumbled into marketing, because I realized in order to sell something, you need to know how to sell something. And it's not sales, it's marketing, right? Because this was delivered digitally online. No one got to see me. There wasn't the Facebook Lives or anything like there is now.
Where do you start with that? I mean, let's say we've got a company out there that, they're doing something that they probably don't enjoy. Yep. And now they decide, yeah, I like this idea of especially the opportunities that online gives us. I want to learn how to market. Where do you start?
Yeah. So how I did it at the start was I had to learn what a PDF was. That's how fresh I was, right? I was like, what the fuck's this PDF? I was like, isn't it a Word doc? Oh, you convert it into one. I'm like, oh my God, I got so much to learn, right? So here's the easy answer. If you do want to change and you want to adopt online, here are your options, okay? And I'm saying this because I have this conversation now. Back to your original question, I'll close the loop on like, what do I do now in the business? I basically spend my entire weeks, months talking to business owners, whether it's on a podcast, whether I'm doing a live training, whether it's an event, whether they're in our office or, they're looking to get started in this place. It's all about thinking like a business owner, right? If you're and thinking, sorry, like how a business owner should think, but also if you're that entrepreneurial style thinker. Okay, so what I mean by that is, I learned marketing at the very early stages because I had no one there to teach me, and I had no one there to do it for me because it was so new, it was still so fresh. Now we're living in an era where, as a business owner, like I said, 95% of my time is spent convincing business owners that they should not learn marketing. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have to go do an apprenticeship in marketing. And you don't have 3-4 years. I've been studying marketing for 13 years and I still don't know anything. Right. And what I mean by that is the more you know about a topic, the more you uncover that you don't know. Because what marketing did to me was it took me down a very deep rabbit hole of psychology and influence and persuasion, really uncovering why humans do what they do. And it's got nothing to do with an advertisement, right? So you can go to levels super deep. What I do as an entrepreneur, and I'd be doing if I was any of your listeners and they're like, I want to break into this online space, I'm going to start with the easiest thing that you could do, right? The easiest thing you could do right now, the path of least resistance. Hire a company who knows what they're doing. Okay, that's one. Let's put that to the side for a minute, okay? So let's say that's not an option you want to do, right? But if you are a business owner, you're going to do it, right? There's a reason why tradesmen no longer do everything. Back in the day, building houses and so forth, the tradesmen did everything, right? They were everyone, right? Now there's individual trades in every area. There's a reason why you get the sparkies and there's a reason why you get the plumbers in, because they know what they're fucking doing and you're better off not doing it. Same thing when it comes to, and I used this metaphor on a construction company the other day actually, is you need to be the project manager of your own business. Stop thinking that you need to do social media. You do. You don't. Now, there is a potential level of responsibility that you should know enough about it to make specific decisions, right? But you need to project manage your business. And you need to find the right people who can do these things for you, right? That's just standard business practice. But I understand as well, because marketing, for some bloody reason, even though marketing is decades old, right? It's been around forever. And the art of it has been around forever. It's still such a fresh industry when it comes to entrepreneurs and business owners wanting to build their business. They're happy to hand their social media or their advertising off to Sally, who's the admin, because she's got an extra 6 hours a week worth of work. And you're like, fuck, she can do our social media. She's got a social media account. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. Sally's done zero when it comes to marketing, right? She's not an expert at it. You need to find an expert. You're not going to go walk down the street and go, hey, mate, do you want to come and wire up this house or wire up this building we've just, we're about to put together?
Do you think
because they got no idea.
Do you think that's a case of looking at social and online and as a whole and saying, we've got to do this, we should do this because everyone else does it, so we should do it, rather than looking at it as an ROI exercise and saying, well, if we put X in, we will get Y out. And maybe companies don't look at that in the same strategy or the same focus as they do would look at the projects, which is their sort of natural world.
Well, here's how I've been able to reconcile that. Okay. So if you got an email tomorrow morning and it was a letter from a lawyer and they're basically suing you, you've done something and you're like, oh shit, you could lose your business. Would you reply to that with your feedback? Would you reply to that email with your feedback and you'll reply and go, oh, I vehemently disagree with this, blah, 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 clause, whatever I can think of? No, you're not, because you're going to call your lawyer. If it comes tax year, which, it just popped over here in Australia. I'm not sure what the tax, I don't even think you guys pay tax in Ireland, right? I'm kidding. Let's not go there. But you've got accountants, right? You're not going to sit there and try and come up with what do you put in the W-2 wages and salaries field and your zero reconciling your BAS returns, right? You're not going to do that because you've got an accountant for it. So tell me why. And I'm yet to be able to see anyone's reasoning that can reconcile this for me. Tell me why you're sitting there trying to do your own marketing. I fucking just don't understand it. But I do understand it, but the more and more I have these conversations and light bulbs for business owners go off is we need to start thinking like business owners and not a slave to our business. Like you're the hat of every single role within the business.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a thought out there that it's something that you can pick up. It's something that you can learn. And I think when you go and engage, I mean, we'll just bring it right back to the entourage would have opened up my eyes a lot. When you stand up on a stage with someone, when people like yourself, like we got to have, I think it was a half a day of you going through these strategies. And I would have been guilty of this. I would have said, marketing, sure, I'll buy a CRM. Yep. I'll run Google ads. I'll run Facebook ads. How difficult can it be? Until you get to sit in a room with someone, say like yourself, and then bringing that through with someone like Peter Lakovich, who brings that all into his sales world. And then you open your eyes and say, oh shit, I know nothing about this world whatsoever. I fully get that. Give me some tips then. Let's bring it to a practical place. Some top tips to how a construction company could grow their online presence. If they wanted to start it out today, just what top tips would you have for a construction company to grow their presence online?
So, I mean, when it comes to construction company, the advice that I'm about to throw out here is very subjective and very 30,000 foot view. Okay. Cause it depends. We could have 5 different construction companies come into here and we would devise a totally different strategy for them, because one, brand is important, right? Brand and how you're seen and how you're perceived in an industry is absolutely important. Okay. What you want people to know, think, and feel about your business, your brand. That's very important. It's a starting point, right? Most people don't even worry about that. They don't care. They've got their nephew to build a website because he knows how to build a website because he tinkered with one on Saturday night one night, and now he's a fucking website expert, right? So, and I don't want to come across facetious here, but it's the unfortunate reality is that we're cheapskating ourselves, right? We're cheapskating ourselves on trying to find the path of least resistance, knowing that it's probably not going to be a sustainable one. I'm all for finding the path of least resistance, but we need to make sure it's a smart and intentional decision. But let me digress slightly. What can a construction company do to help build its online presence? One is to be able to showcase who they are. Like, who the bloody hell are you, first and foremost, right? Like, what's your company? What do you stand for? Then you want to go, well, do we know that you know what you're doing? So how are you going to do that? Well, showcase proof, right? Showcase jobs, showcase testimonials, feedback, go to the extra mile, video record your customers giving you a testimonial, a case study, and not just going, I used XYZ builders and I thought they were amazing. You know, hire a company who can help tell that story. Right, we just created a testimonial, a case study here for one of our clients, and I literally watched it and I had a tear in my eyes. Like, holy fuck, that was amazing. And I went to the client themselves and actually interviewed them, so I knew what was going to be sort of said. But the way we put it together was like, oh, I want to do business with my business, right? So the way in which you can share and showcase that you are the obvious best choice. Like, why would I use your construction company over old mates down the road? Right? Like, why am I going to go with you? And it ain't just price, right? It ain't, unless you're going to be the Walmart and that's your business model is like, we are the lowest cost. You're never going to beat us, right? Your houses might leak, but we're the lowest cost, right? So you need to, one, who are you? Showcase that on social, and look, there's no exact formula like you should do one piece of content a day on this platform and one piece of content on that. You really do need to sit down and go, okay, where does this business go in the next 3 years? And if you want to become like the biggest player in your marketplace, you need to start thinking like the biggest player in your marketplace and start making decisions like the biggest player in your marketplace, right? The amount of times I talk with businesses and they want to like quadruple their revenue. And I'm like, cool, that's amazing. How are you going to change the way in which you're thinking? Because the way in which you're thinking right now is going to massively change if you want to be a 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, $500 million business, right? The way we work with one of the largest home builders here in Australia, right? Hundreds of millions a year in revenue. And the way that company looks and the way they make decisions is completely different to someone who's a construction company doing maybe $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year. Now, I'm not saying you're going to come out of the gates and start making through, $700 million a year decisions. But what we did here at Claxon was from day one, we wanted to be the number one digital growth agency globally. Okay. And in order to do that, you need to go, what does the number one look like? Or what would it look like? Right? What would people need to be saying about it? What sort of results would we need to be putting out there into the marketplace if we were the number one? And then you need to make as many decisions as you can in alignment with that. So, for example, we're not going to cheapskate out on the $40 a month software when we know the $300 a month software is going to be the best thing for us. We're going to make the investment. Right. So it's really changing the way in which you look at your business is going to change everything you do on marketing, hands down.
There's a lot of the strategy stuff that you're throwing out here that's bringing me back to your personal development world. And it's since sitting there and having a chat with you, it's starting to really sort of resonate how aligned they are. Talk to me about the book Right Now, Why Not You, and Why Not Now? What was the idea behind that? Where did it, the title's brilliant. Where did it come from and why the book?
Mate, the book was literally prior to starting the agency. I was in that sort of coaching consulting world as well. So, I'd built our fitness company. It was in a position where I didn't really need to be a part of it. And I love teaching, right? Back to my initial burst was I like to teach people things. People were asking me, how are you doing it? How are you doing? I was like, let me teach you. Let me coach you through this. And long story short, because there is a long story to it, but something at one of my best friends, she passed away in front of me. She had cancer and she passed away and I flew over to New Zealand to the funeral. Well, actually, I flew over there. I should have just told the story because now I'm trying to fucking tell the story in bits and pieces. But I'm also aware that this story takes about 8.5 minutes to tell because I've told it many times, right? But I flew over there for a holiday just to go and see her. The day I arrived, within 3 hours of me being at the house, she passed away in front of me, right? So it was quite a moment because I was going over there because she was getting better, not worse. And I was sitting on the plane on the way home and I just burst into tears. I was like, what the fuck? And it was because when I was over there, all my friends were like, man, you're killing it. You're doing so well. You've created a business. You're making heaps of money. Life looks great. And it looked great on social media. And look, don't get me wrong. I was having a great life. But I realized that I wasn't living to my potential. And my friend who I grew up with died. And she's never going to be able to live to her potential anymore, like to what I knew she was capable of. And I was like, fuck, what if that was me? Like, what if I was to die in 12 months, 24 months? Like, I'm taking, and this is where I feel I'm very capable in saying that we're cheapskating ourselves, right? And I'll back that 100% because I was cheapskating myself for a long time. What looked successful to many people, to me, I knew it wasn't. I was like, yeah, I'm doing good. I'm getting we're achieving amazing things. We're able to help hundreds of thousands of women around the world globally through our health and fitness products and services, which was great. And most people go, why wouldn't you just be happy with that? Well, I was happy with that, but you can't deny a feeling that you have when you know internally that I just was not playing my A game. In my view, I was playing a good B game. I had A++ material left in me. So it was that sort of awakening where I was like, fuck man, you need to play a bigger game. And that was the spawning of the book and the company Unleash Your Greatness. But the concept of right now, why not you and why not now? That's a question I asked myself. Mm-hmm. I was on the plane and I was like, all right, so what are you going to do? And then I'm like, when are you going to do it?
I'd imagine there's a big sort of deep look inside yourself. When you start to think about what you're gonna write, what was the big learning you take away from that experience?
From the writing of the book?
Yeah, from the writing of the book.
That it's got nothing to do with writing of the book. The book took me 2 weeks to write. I fucking smashed it out. But what it was the journey you go on. I recommend every single person, whether you publish it or not, just the exercise alone, right? And the book itself it's part story, but very, very framework driven. So I'm a very practical person. You know, I like to be able to make sure people can take something and then go and implement it. So I've got an entire framework of, you know, it's the 4 Ds. Discover. So discover where you are, discover what's important to you in life. And there's frameworks and exercises that people can go through to really open that up, because I feel that's the biggest missing link, right? Is how do I actually find out what I want to do in my life? And then design. So design the life that you want to live in all areas, you know, so from a physical perspective, from a financial perspective, you know, emotionally, familial, etc. And then develop, which is the third phase, is what skills do you need to develop? How do you develop that to become the person that you need to become to live the life that you've designed, right? And then deliver. So deliver is the last phase, which is, okay, now how do I take action? How do I reconcile this? How do I consistently make sure that I'm moving forward? So discover, design, develop, deliver, quite an easy framework. But the point that I share there is, I think everyone should write a book, try and create something in their own mind and write it, because the journey it took me on was life-changing within itself, right? Now, the beautiful thing is the book's gone on to help tens of thousands of people and it's helped change their life, but it changed my life even more by just writing it.
Mm.
And this goes back to self-reflection, which is the biggest missing issue that we have on this planet right now. People aren't fucking stopping to reflect on how they acted today. I've got a post right now on Facebook. I actually just shared a post, right? I didn't even write this bloody thing. I shared someone's post and it's got fucking over 100 comments already in the last couple of hours of people firing off and giving their opinions and all that shit, right? But I'm like, cool, everyone's got an opinion. But can we just have some civilized discourse and try and find out an alternate narrative, right? Instead of having to be right. And that's why people are so unhappy in their fucking lives, because they're not stopping, they're not reflecting, they're not checking in, they're not being true to who they are. They're stuck in. And if we tie this back into, I have a way of turning podcasts and presentations into something that they, was not the initial intention. You know, like when I go and talk about, someone wants me to talk about marketing or Facebook advertising, I have them leaving going, oh my God, I need to change my whole business model. Right. But that's what I think most people, need. Right. So I know from a construction perspective, your listeners who are tuning into this, there'll be some of them right now going, fuck, I don't even want to be in this construction business. Or I just want to remove myself from this construction business so fast, but I'm scared or I don't know what to do. The reality is the first step is just make the decision, and then the rest is easy. You'll figure it out. There's a thing called Google. There's no way you cannot figure out anything, right? There's no way you can't figure out. There's something to help you. There's someone out there. There's a Facebook group of people who are going through exactly what you're going through. You just need to want it enough to want to go and take the step to make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brett, it sounds like you had a positive experience doing the book. Is it something you do again? Is it something you're starting to document stuff now going forward?
Mate, I've started the rough draft. This will be a little bit of a bigger one because this is just distilling my thoughts over the last few years of, I feel right now the biggest epidemic that's happening for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs is my crew, right? When I say my crew, that's who I know I can relate to the most, right? And I think right now, I know for certain that there are so many entrepreneurs, and there's different levels of entrepreneurs too. That's an entire different discussion. Like I'm on the very North Richter scale. I'm an identified entrepreneur that should not be running his business. Okay. That's how entrepreneurial I am. And the fact that I can identify that is highlighting the point that entrepreneurs need to be able to identify where they fucking sit in the spectrum first and foremost, and then know how to actually operate within it. Because there's too many business owners, entrepreneurs that have got themselves a fucking stressful job, right? They're doing everything. They're trying to do everything. They're not thinking about it properly. They're not thinking through. So over the next 12 months, my goal is to bridge the gap and turn more business owners into the entrepreneur that they are and they want to be by providing frameworks and tools and ways of thinking in order to make that the reality. You know, I've got it down to a point where in a 15-minute sort of conversation with someone, I can have them thinking quite differently about what they're doing and why they're doing it, to the point where they're like, okay, now I know I need to pull the trigger. And I can only talk about it at that level is because I know it so deeply, because I've actually gone through it a couple of times myself.
Yeah, interesting. Is that something you'd ever consider creating? Like, it sounds something that could be course based as well, rather than just through the book.
Anyone would think I've prompted you to say that. So I'm, I literally 4 hours before this podcast, I've literally started mapping out the course outline. So I am going to do a course, and I'm glad you said that because it's clearly resonating. I haven't put it out to market yet, or haven't done any research around, do people actually want this? I know it's needed, but just because something's needed doesn't mean it's wanted, right? That's one thing you learn in marketing or in business in itself. So it's about, for me, the test will be, how do I take this topic that I know if someone listens to me talk about it and they're open to hearing it, it can change their way of living and their life and their business. How will I then position that, right, to get them to actually want to start listening?
Interesting.
So,
interesting. We'll definitely keep our eyes open for that. Brett, you've been very generous with your time. Let's wrap this up. Where can people learn more about you and Claxon?
You can go to brettcampbell.com.au. So BRETT, Campbell. I wish I was given an easier name than I didn't, like Sam or
you should come live here.
Bell.
Come live in Ireland. We got some crackers.
Oh, you do. You got some doozies.
Yeah.
But yeah, brettcampbell.com.au, or you can check out Claxon at Claxon with a C, LAXON.agency. So there's no .com either. So Claxon.agency on that one.
Brilliant. We wish you all the best. I know the business is thriving. I know the UK stuff is on the horizon. So we would have a strong Irish UK based listener base as well. So, reach out to Brett and Claxon for any digital marketing or strategies or personal development now that we're learning through the back end of the episode as well. So Brett, listen, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, mate. Love seeing what you guys are doing. And drop me a line, jump into the DMs, say you've just listened to this episode. Let us both know. It's always nice to know who's listening. And if you've gotten any value, let us know. And if you thought it was shit, just don't let me know about it, because I can be pretty upset if you think no. Let us know regardless. Appreciate it, man.
Cheers, Brett.